Welcome back, my Be Health Empowered family, to another episode of Excuse Me, Doctor. My name is Dr. Melissa Clark. Of course, I love it when you call me Dr. Mel. And we are back here yet another week doing what we do on Excuse Me, Doctor, which is making sure that you have the information that you need to make wise health decisions about your health, and not just your health, your family's health, and even the health of your community. So, thank you for tuning in on any platform that you happen to be on. If that is Facebook, though, please hit that like button. And if it is on YouTube, please hit that red subscribe button. We really appreciate you. And if you're a newbie to this, then you should also know that we are here to answer your questions. So, as something pops into your head as we're going through the show, just go ahead and stick it in the chat if you're watching us live on YouTube or Facebook. So, now let us get into creating an amazing week for ourselves with all the health topics we're going to cover. And of course, to do that, well, I have to have Mr. Wayne Bruce to join me, my co-host, my producer, bringing us the word from the street. How you doing?
Dr. Mel, we're going to have to work on that bringing the word from the street thing, because I'm not in the streets. I mean, I used to be in the streets. It used to be a way of life.
Okay, you're in the internet streets because you
I'm in
bring
the
us
interwebs.
you're
streets.
in the web streets because you're
The
bringing us
streets
the
of the
word from the chat.
interwebs.
That's right. That's right.
So, how you doing today, Dr. Mel?
I am doing good. I'm doing good, and I'm excited about today's show, man. I mean, it's going to be great.
Great show lined up. Great show.
Yeah, you know what we're talking about, right?
It's all about, energy medicine, right?
Yes.
Is it real or not? Is it? Can somebody just heal you or help you heal yourself just by running their hands around you or on you, touching you lightly?
We're gonna talk. We're gonna hear from some experts, and they're both Reiki masters. Two of my favorite people. They're gonna walk us through the exploration of energy medicine, but specifically Reiki, because that's where their expertise lies. So I can't wait to talk to them. It's gonna be really good.
Oh yeah, I'm here for it. I'm here for all of it. I'm in these interweb streets.
And I know the audience is here for it too. So.
I hope so. Stay here. Stay here. Yeah, I'm talking about, for all my interweb people, I'm talking about Reiki. Reiki.
We're talking about Reiki.
Without an A.
Right. So, what's up on the agenda? Where are we going?
So you know where we got to go. It's what everybody is. What y'all think? We got a new hot. What y'all think, man? We got. Here it goes. Here we go.
What y'all think?
Dr. Mel.
Yes.
I mean, I've been hearing crazy stuff.
What's the big question of the day?
They're talking about, does having a college degree have an effect on your health?
That's an interesting one. So what y'all think? Does having a college degree affect your health? And as you're thinking about the answer to that question, I just want to throw some things out there for you to know. It turns out that people who haven't been to college die sooner.
Wow.
They've known this since the 1970s, but the gap has widened alarmingly, especially since the COVID pandemic.
Wow. Why is that? Why is it such a wide gap? Speak to the gap, Dr. Mel.
So the gap is this. Those people with college degrees have continued to have an increase in their life expectancy. It's now at 84 years on average. But people without college degrees, their life expectancy peaked in 2010 and it's been falling ever since. And now the gap between college degree versus no college degree is about 9 years pre-pandemic. And then since the pandemic, another 3 1/3 years was added on for a total gap of about 12 years between those with a college degree and those without.
So what could be the reason? I mean, what's the reason? Is it what's going on?
Well, there are lots of reasons for them. I think you probably know some of them, but
I
stagnant wages.
So what I heard was healthcare. What I think about when it is healthcare costs is rising, housing costs is skyrocketing. I mean, just
Right.
that alone puts so much pressure on you. On you,
Right.
it's
It displaces people so they become homeless or houseless, not
hmm
with stable housing.
right.
Unions used to be big, used to be able to negotiate for working class people to keep their wages up.
hmm
Unions have lost their power, so wages have gotten stagnant. So people just can't afford the things to help keep them healthy. They get segregated into unhealthy neighborhoods, and I think that has a lot to do with it.
Wow, wow.
Yeah. And it's really disturbing because there's such an anti-college sentiment going on that's popped up in the
hmm
last few years.
hmm
I know that it's expensive. It's not for everyone. Some people say it's a waste of time. So that's
hmm
why I want to hear from everybody. Knowing this, do you think that having a college degree is important for your health?
So let us know. Put it if so. All our people who are not watching live, y'all got to watch live. I mean, only way to watch.
Because we want to know what y'all think.
We
So
want to
put it
know
in the
what you
chat.
think.
And we're
Yeah.
going to get back to it in just a little bit. We're going to see what y'all read, but let's go to our boom weekly
The
recap.
recap. Let's get to the recap. Let's get to it, Dr. Mill.
All right.
So I want to tell a story before we go into the recap. You know, uh,
Right. Because it's Breast Cancer Awareness Month.
it's Breast Cancer Awareness Month. I lost a sister from breast cancer, uh, Fuzzy. That was our
Yeah.
nickname for her. And I don't want to go into names because, the interwebs, they could steal anything. Anyway, so I had a sister we lost from breast cancer, and friends of ours have had breast cancer. But
Yeah.
I want to say this. My m my mama, every year my mama was kind of wide. I'm wide, so I take after my mama and my daddy. But look, so she used to complain about the mammogram. So as a man, I mean, only thing I heard was, "I hate having a mammogram. I hate because I don't know what goes on into it, but as a grown up, I kinda know now."
Trust. Trust. It's a squashing of your breast between two metal plates.
I see. There it is. There it
Yeah.
is.
That's what it
And
is.
so, but I'm concerned because, as a man can get breast cancer also. I mean, Richard Roundtree, Shaft, the original Shaft,
Yeah.
got breast
That's
cancer.
true.
So, at what age should women start getting mammograms? Because I can't remember how old I was when my mom used to complain about it.
Well, the thing is this, and I she is not alone in terms of women complaining about it, but it is the most important way that we screen for cancers of the breast. And first of all, women or anyone should know their breast better than anybody else. You should start examining your own breasts monthly, mainly if you're still menstruating at the end of your period when your breasts are least tender. Then you start getting annual breast exams with your primary care physician at age 18, and then annual mammograms start at age 40.
So, are there anything that either men or women can do to reduce their risk of getting breast cancer?
Yes, there is. Now, family history is important, but only 1 in 8 people diagnosed with breast cancer actually have a family history. So all those other 7 out of 8 people
Mhm.
still need to be cautious. And there are things that you can do to reduce your risk, whether you have a family history or not. So, two of the most important things are increasing your physical activity and decreasing how much alcohol you drink. There's actually no safe level of alcohol. Even a glass of wine a day has been correlated with a higher risk of breast cancer.
So, in reading up on the show, I read about dense breasts. What does that mean?
So, starting this year, your mammogram results will tell you if your breasts appear dense. Now, why is that important? Having dense breasts is common. It just means that the proportion of glandular tissue, which is the tissue that produces milk,
Mhm.
that's in higher proportion than the fat tissue. And that makes it more difficult to see breast cancer on a mammogram. And so those individuals might have to have a follow up exam, either with an ultrasound or MRI, if the results of their mammogram are unclear.
Okay.
So, if you get on your report that you have dense breast, your doctor may advise additional testing, especially if you have a family history of breast cancer or some other risk factor for breast cancer.
Okay.
So, those are the
Go
three
get your
things.
mammograms.
Yeah,
Women,
get your
go get your
mammogram, start at
mammograms.
40, things you could do to reduce your risk, and what do dense breasts mean?
And men, just go to the doctor. Just for us, just go to the doctor.
Yeah.
Bruh, go to the doctor. All right.
Yes.
Because we
Well
love you
said.
here.
Well
Okay,
said.
cool. Look, speaking of going to the doctor, people are coming down with all kinds of it's cold and flu season started, especially on the East Coast. I don't know what we're doing on the West Coast, but it is cold and flu season.
People are
And
running
so
around with runny noses.
run around, people scared. Is that COVID or is it just a cold or what's going on? So, what's going on with decongestants? Tell me about it.
So there's news in the decongestant world. Basically, the FDA ruled last month that a chemical phenylephrine, a medication, which is the main ingredient in most over-the-counter cold medicines for stuffy noses, it doesn't work to clear up nasal congestion. So phenylephrine doesn't work.
So, what does that have to do with methamphetamines?
Okay, so it has something to do with meth because phenylephrine and pseudoephedrine are the only two over-the-counter oral decongestants, nasal decongestants. But because of the meth epidemic, most brands like Sudafed PE switched to phenylephrine when everything with Sudafed or pseudoephedrine, sorry, had to go move behind the counter in 2005 because so many people were buying that to get the pseudoephedrine to make meth. So that's why a lot of companies then switch to using phenylephrine instead, which has now unfortunately been found to be ineffective.
So, we've been buying this stuff for years
Years.
because of meth heads made us change the formula and we found
Actually,
out it doesn't work.
meth manufacturers,
Meth,
really.
I'm sorry, meth manufacturers. Let me be PC. The producers on camera, what I say has nothing to do with Dr. Mel or the show.
Right.
Does that get you out of the program? Anyway, look, what can we use instead? There's a whole lot of names, but what can we use
Yeah.
instead?
So for the common cold, you can use nasal sprays that include something called oxymetazoline, um, or the nasal formulation of phenylephrine. So it's really just the oral form that doesn't work.
Oh, okay. So like Afram, that
Afrin, uh-huh.
Afram. I said
Afrin,
Afram.
Afrin, Dristan is another
I'm having a
Sinex long ass
I knew
Sinex long ass
Afrin and
acting,
Dristan, so I just combined them.
right?
What other ones work, Dr. Bell? What other ones work?
So you could do oral Sudafed, right?
Okay.
But of
All
course,
right.
that's gonna be behind the counter,
All right.
behind the pharmacy counter.
Okay. So
So
what
so
about
you
the
have
people?
to ask the ID, you have to ask the pharmacist for it and show ID.
I know. I know. What about people with high blood pressure?
So you need safer options because those things will increase your blood pressure. They're also not good for pregnant women, people with glaucoma, people with
Okay.
diabetes. So you might want to try something like a breathe right strip or equivalent, or use saline nose rinses.
So breathe right strip is just like tape around your nose to hold it
Right.
up.
Unfortunately.
You
Yeah.
might want to buy, don't put duct tape around your nose, but you might want to just buy some tape, put around your
Yeah.
nose. Anyway, look, I'm talking like this next topic. Seniors with ADHD have a higher crash risk. Look, I didn't even
Uh,
know it was such a thing as a senior with ADHD. Huh?
yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
go. I'm back.
Well, most people do associate it with childhood, but
Right.
those children do grow into adults and those adults grow into seniors. And it's been shown that seniors over 65 who have ADHD have a 74 to 88% higher occurrence of self-reported car crashes. That's a
Wow.
lot.
That's a
And
lot.
so, yeah, so everybody knows ADHD is a chronic neurodevelopmental condition. The symptoms are like inattentiveness, impulsiveness, and hyperactivity. Um, and there are effective interventions for treating ADHD in adults that will help make their driving safer, help them age in a more healthy way. So if you haven't been diagnosed, it's important to talk to your primary care doctor to get a referral to either a psychiatrist, psychologist, clinical social worker, or neurologist. Any of those folks can diagnose you and get you started on a treatment plan.
I feel, huh? Oh, I'm back. My attention. I don't have I
Well,
don't have attention.
you know where to get started.
Huh? Yeah,
Yeah,
I have to
yeah,
get
yeah,
checked out. What am I doing now? No, I'm just kidding.
yeah.
I'm back. So look, let's go back to the what y'all think. Because some people did write in, man,
Okay, let's
you
see what
know,
we
for
have.
all
What do
my
we have?
interwebers, all the people on the web right now, I want to go to Joan Quinlan. She says, I can see that good health is tied to income, not necessarily a college degree. Raise your hand if you agree with Joan.
The studies were done not on income, but definitely on college degree. And I think college degree confers higher income and
Okay.
more options in
Right.
life. Yeah.
Right. Also, Kathy Sindo says no, but I believe more income is needed to keep healthy traits. Okay. Whatever traits you were born with money, keep them. You need to
It
you need
increases
money.
your options. It's easier to obtain healthy produce. It's easier to obtain healthy housing without environmental hazards. It's
Right.
easier to have a job that you enjoy doing rather than when it stresses you out. You
Right.
have money to pay bills, so you don't have that extra stress of worrying about making ends meet. So yeah,
So
definitely all
I
those
was just
things.
gonna let another one of our viewers say similar things. Richard Goodjoin says, absolutely. Exposure to information and the ability to make modifications to lifestyle due to supplemental income. So there
All
you
right
have it.
now. All right now, Dr. Goodjoin.
Dr.
Okay.
Goodjoin is in the building. All right. All right. And that's it, Dr. Mel.
All right. Well, thank you all for the what y'all think. We are going to go into the reason why we're here tonight. Now, which is to talk about energy medicine and Reiki. And I rarely, actually, probably never have started off a segment with a personal story. But I have to say this: I had 3 months of excruciating electric arm pain. I got an MRI of my neck. I saw an orthopedic sports medicine doctor who told me that I had a slip disc in my neck and then I needed surgery. Um, and basically, I wasn't really ready for surgery, even though I had been having symptoms for 3 months. And he basically said, I really have never seen um, these kinds of symptoms resolve. Rarely do they resolve after if they've been going along for 3 months. But you know what? If you want to wait a little bit and come back and see me later, fine. So that's what I did. And in the interim, I tried Reiki with from actually one of our guests who is on tonight. And after a few Reiki sessions, boom, the symptoms left and never came back. And so that really catalyzed me to really look more into energy medicine in general and Reiki specifically. So I never recommend treatments based on one person's experience, including my own. But it turns out that Reiki has been undergoing clinical trials and been gaining in popularity. So we have two incredible guests who are going to help us walk through it. Number one, Dr. Cheryl Jennifer LaRoche, PhD. She's a historian and archaeologist who consults in 18th and 19th century free Black communities and the relationship to the Underground Railroad. But even though that's where her PhD is, she is a seasoned Reiki master who has practiced for over 25 years, and I've been to her. So, Dr. LaRoche, welcome to the program.
Thank you.
And then we also have Dr. Linda Thompson. She is a former professor at Howard University in the area of nutrition, but she too is a Reiki master. And I welcome her to the show and look forward to hearing all her knowledge tonight. Dr. Thompson, thank you so much for being here again.
Thanks for having me.
All right, well, let us jump into it. First of all, I think everybody's probably noticed that you all have such varied backgrounds. So let's first start with Dr. LaRoche. What was your journey to become interested in energy medicine and specifically Reiki?
In a nutshell, I was actually working on the African burial ground in New York City and was around a lot of people who were really quite spiritual. But if you fast forward, I tore my Achilles tendon and had to fly to California about 2 days after the cast came off. And like you mentioned, I was in excruciating pain. And after the session where I had gone to California, a woman offered me Reiki. I didn't know what it was. I said, yes, please, anything to relieve this. The next morning, when I got up, I was actually walking down the street before I remembered that I had been in so much pain and that I'd even had the surgery. I felt so great. I think exposure from being on the burial ground around a lot of people who were quite spiritual and kind of introduced me to this form of healing. And since then, like you, it caught my attention, and I had been working in chemistry and all kinds of scientific, facilities and so forth. And I was stunned. I wanted to know more.
Wow. Um, yeah, so we definitely have some parallels there. What about you, Dr. Thompson? What got you interested in Reiki?
Well, back in the 90s, I was attending Unity Church in DC, and the church secretary had just gotten into Reiki and became a Reiki practitioner, and she would offer Reiki to anyone that came in the church office. So I went in, got a Reiki treatment, and I was like, wow, this is wonderful. I felt like I was in another space, like I was floating on a cloud. And so after then, I would find every excuse to come in the office and get a treatment, but short treatment. But I decided to become Reiki back in the mid 90s and have been involved ever since. And it's just been very wonderful for myself as well as beneficial for the people who have received Reiki.
All right. Well, let's then for the audience break down the term energy medicine for us, Dr. Thompson. We know that it also includes acupuncture, acupressure, cranial sacral therapy, among other kinds of healing. But what are the principles behind energy medicine? What is it?
Well, energy medicine addresses working with the subtle energies of our body. We're not just the physical body, but we have a mental, emotional, electromagnetic body as well as others. So, what happens in these subtle energy bodies? So, whatever happens in those subtle energy bodies affects us physically. For example, your thoughts, which are non physical, are conveyed via your brain to your gut and other organs and tissues and have a profound effect on your body. For example, think of a stressful thought and see where you feel it in the body. It's usually in the gut, in your stomach area. Think a joyful, exciting thought and observe how your body feels. So, trauma and other mental, emotional adverse experiences get stuck in our tissues and our joints and cause physical issues. So therapies like Reiki work on those subtle energy bodies. You know, I tell my Reiki clients to think of there being a dark cloud either around them or a particular organ or body parts that they're having an issue with, and I tell them that Reiki breaks up that dark cloud.
Okay. So, what specifically is Reiki, Dr. LaRoche? I mean, Dr. Thompson has kind of set the table for us with energy medicine in general, but what is Reiki specifically?
Well, generally, it's called the universal life force energy. So it is an energy healing system. Sometimes people think of chi. There are all kinds of words that are used for it, but basically it is the movement of energy through the channels and systems of the body. Not just along meridian lines, not just along electromagnetic lines, but along healing pathways of the body. But in a abstract way, it's the movement of energy, and it is the channeling of universal life force energy by a Reiki practitioner to a patient or person, receiving Reiki.
And the bottom line is everything is energy, right? I mean, our cells are, if you go down to the very smallest unit, it translates into energy. Energy is what powers everything. So, Dr. Thompson, when somebody goes for a Reiki session, what can they expect?
Well, they can generally expect to become relaxed. Generally, most people are. You don't have to prepare for it. Your clothes are left on. Person can lie down on a massage table, or they can sit in a chair. And I personally use no touch Reiki, where I just hold my hands over a person's body and send them the Reiki healing energy. Well, and channel it through me to them. So when you become a Reiki practitioner, you are attuned to be able to channel the energy through you yourself to the person. And I say generally expect to become relaxed, because everyone usually has their own unique reaction to Reiki, to the Reiki energy. I've had people experience a lot of their body starts pulsating and moving. Some people go into another state, and when they come out of Reiki, they said, I went somewhere, I don't know where it was. Some people have felt removal of energy blocks. Some people have, I've I had channeled Reiki to someone who was hospitalized and was actually had intestinal bleeding. The doctor couldn't find it, and she was like really didn't want to have surgery the next day. So I offered Reiki. She said fine. The bleeding stopped, and she went home. Now it just depends on the person and their
Mhm.
individual issue.
Right. Now you mentioned something there. It said you said you sent Reiki energy. So, Dr. LaRoche, I know you mentioned in the story that I told about the pain that I was having, you did something called distance Reiki for me, which I think is what Dr. Thompson's mentioning with that hospitalized patient.
No, I was
What
there
is
physically.
Oh, you were there
No, I
physically?
was
Okay.
there, but
Okay.
yeah,
Well, it's still
yeah,
good to know though. What is distance Reiki? Because there you don't necessarily have to be in the same place as the person, right?
So no, there are 3 levels of Reiki. Reiki 1 is the first attunement, and you usually work with yourself and with loved ones, pets. It's usually a close-in sort of use of the energy. Reiki 2 is you're attuned for distance healing. Reiki
Okay.
3, you're attuned to the level of mastery. So at Reiki 2, you learn to send the energy where it needs to go. You usually get the name of the person. You may know where they are, and you channel the energy over long distances. I've sent Reiki around the world. When you are first being trained, of course, this is a very abstract and contrary concept, and you
Mhm.
don't believe it. Well, it's hard for you to even believe yourself. And
Yeah.
so one of the
I'm sure
things
people listening are like, "Whoa, what are they talking
no,
about?"
yeah, but what happens as when you're being trained, you work with other people. Maybe someone's upstairs and you're downstairs, and you come back and compare notes. And frequently, for the first year or two, when I was learning distance Reiki, I always spoke to the person afterwards, and I would tell them what I felt, and they would be amazed because they were having a similar experience.
Wow.
Or, I would have all manner of experiences, and to the point now where, I mean, a quick story. My middle daughter was in 9/11,
Oh,
and we
wow.
didn't know for a couple of hours whether she was alive or not.
Mm.
And I sent her Reiki, and I could feel that she was still alive. And for
Wow.
the whole time that she was moving through this experience, I Reiki'd her. And afterwards, she was newly pregnant with my grandchild. And afterwards, she said to me, this is a while later, she said, I knew you were sending me Reiki. I said to the people we were leaving, getting away from the World Trade Center, she said, I said to them, my mother's sending me Reiki.
Oh,
So
wow.
it's
That's
a very
powerful.
powerful way to be connected, to send healing energy, and to intervene in places and times where people cannot receive the energy in other ways. I will say
Right.
this, what neither one of us mentioned, we cannot send Reiki without permission. If you're in a coma,
Okay.
we'll go in and ask. If you are mute, if you cannot speak, if you speak another language, if somebody asks me to send Reiki to Brazil, I am going to go in, and usually you'll get some kind of a sign that says yes or no. And then you either do or do not proceed with the practice.
Okay. So then that begs the question, which I'll stick with you to answer this. Do you have to quote unquote believe in Reiki for it to work?
I don't, my own opinion is no. You, for the most part, it should not be actively opposed. In other words, you can be like, I don't know. I don't know if I really believe in this. It seems like a bunch of hooey. But if you're like blocking it and saying no and rejecting it, then don't waste your time or the time of the practitioner. You
Mhm.
do want to allow it. You don't have to believe it, but
Mhm.
to allow
Just
it
be
to come.
open.
Be open to it. Yes.
Okay.
And I
So
want to
now
add,
yeah,
oh, I
go
just wanted
ahead.
to add something to that. Uh, my mom was having some issues with her knees, and I had offered to Reiki at her, and she was like, "Oh, okay, here's something weird, something else weird you're into." So I Reiki'd her. This was years ago, and she didn't seem to have any relief. About a year or so later, she was visiting me here in the DC area, and we had done a lot of walking, and her knees were just really painful. And I offered to Reiki again, and she said, "Oh, anything, anything." Well, I Reiki'd her knees. The pain went away because she was open to it. She didn't have those blocks up. So, like Dr. LaRoche said, yeah, you really at least should be able to allow it to come through. And
Right.
even if you don't, and if you allow, even if you don't particularly feel anything, a physical effect from it, it will be doing something. The Reiki energy goes where it needs to go to help to heal what's going on with you.
And if I could add to that, it heals on
Mhm.
4 levels or more than 4 levels, but there's mental, there's physical, there's psychological, there's emotional, there's karmic, there's the DNA. We can't tell, ask, or direct the energy. It has its own intelligence. And so someone comes and says, I have a headache. And when you're finished working with them, they say, well, that real pain in my foot is gone. So that it is, you can't always detect what is going on, particularly when it's
Right.
healing spiritual, the emotional, and the metaphysical levels.
Got it. Well, now I'm a scientist, and I said at the beginning, I'm not endorsing something just based on my own experience or just on story. So I have to go to you, Dr. Thompson, to ask, is there research showing whether Reiki works or not?
Yes, there have been randomized clinical studies over the last, at least what I researched, 5 years, 5 to 6 years, that Reiki is effective in relieving pain. Well, has been shown to be effective in relieving pain, stress, helping to counter depression, that have been used in different situations. There's one university that was using it in their, I think in Georgetown. Was it Georgetown? I have to look again. That was using it in their psychology, in their substance abuse treatment facility.
Okay.
Let me not say substance abuse treatment facility. I'm just trying to figure out where that was. But at any rate, no, what wasn't there? It was a New York Presbyterian Behavioral
Okay.
Health Center integrates Reiki into patients' addiction recovery treatment plan.
Okay.
And it's used pre-surgery to relieve pain and anxiety from patients. So it's been used. It's gaining popularity.
Okay. Okay. Well, that's good to know, and I know that there is research that does show that it is effective. Um, what would you say in terms of what people should not expect from Reiki? So, um, how would you what's your thought around that?
Well, they should not expect Reiki to heal everything, to fix everything. The individual has to do their part. I mean, we have to work to resolve and release mental, emotional issues that are affecting us physically. So, Reiki can give temporary relief and sometimes permanent relief, depending on the person, and the amount of openness and work that they have done within themselves to release these subtle energy blocks.
Okay.
You know, and I
Um,
would add to that and just say that if it took you 20 years to develop a condition, do not think that you're going to walk in after one treatment and it's going to go away. It walked into your body slowly, and sometimes it needs to walk out of your body slowly. Holistic medicine is more subtle. Conventional medicine, you want to take it out of your body, you cut it out, you get rid of it. And so I think that, to look to the word cure, people sometimes confuse the word cure with the word healing. Healing is a process. And so I think once you understand that you're moving through an energy system that is a process, you have a different understanding of what's going to happen.
Yeah,
what I
that's true. But I was just going to mention with Dr. Mel and some other people that I've worked with, and probably you too, Dr. LaRoche, that there are some people who are ready and have worked on themselves and not even realized it, so that when they get the Reiki treatment, it's like a one and done. But that's not everybody. But it
right.
has, yeah.
They're
Well,
very
I think it
efficient in
goes
the
to what you're
process
saying
of the
is it's individualized. You can't really, it's not like a one size fits all. Everybody's going to have the same result. So,
correct. But
yeah.
I've seen people take the energy, as you've said, and move that. It really do have miraculous things happen to them after one session. Other
Right.
people have walked away and said, well, yeah. So it depends on the person.
And what I always say too is, people always ask me about, uh, Western medicine versus other modalities. And I always say, my answer is always this: if you have a concern and you don't know what it is, go to Western medicine to get it diagnosed and get a sense for whether you have a while to address it or if it needs immediately to be addressed. And if it needs to be immediately addressed, then Western medicine is where you should start. But if they say, just like the orthopedist said to me, oh, you have some time if you want to try to figure out, what you want to do with this, whether you want surgery, just come back and see me in 3 months. And I knew that, okay, I have time to explore some other things that may take a while longer, but I have the luxury of time on my side. So that's how I kind of think about it. Now, when people go to get Reiki, can they expect that insurance will cover it, for either of you?
Um, there are some facilities that have Reiki volunteers that have come to volunteer to give Reiki, and so the patient incurs no cost. Um, there are places where if the physician incorporates Reiki into the patient's treatment plan, it's covered. Otherwise, if you're going you usually have to go out of pocket, and there's really no reimbursement. However, with things like acupuncture, years ago was not reimbursable, but over time, with more demand and more use, it it's now covered. And I think the same thing can be done by Reiki with Reiki.
Yeah. And I think with more scientific evidence, that's what happened with acupuncture. More and more studies were done that showed that it was effective. And so insurance companies said, okay, we'll reimburse for it. So as more studies get done on Reiki, if they show that it continues to have positive benefit, that's something that I think will influence insurance companies to whether to cover it or not. And also HSA. If you have a HSA, you can ask your insurance company, "Can I use my HSA funds to cover it?" So, I can't believe that it is time to bring our audience in because I know they must have some questions. Because I still have questions, but I gotta make sure that we get, the Be Health Empowered audience in here to ask y'all some questions. So, Wayne, are you,
I am
you
here.
monitoring the chat?
I am looking at all the interwebs and combined, and we have questions. We have
All right.
questions, Dr. Mel. And I'm going to go to one of our dear listeners and viewers, Yvonne Smith. Are there any dangers for the recipient or the practitioners of Reiki while doing Reiki?
Excellent question.
I would say
Doc
Yeah,
Dr.
yeah.
LaRoche, yeah, I was gonna go to you.
I would say the danger is not the word. Reiki is a healing energy. It moves for the highest good of the person receiving it. But I will also say that at times people come and their energy is misaligned. They are uncomfortable. There are things that are not in alignment in their bodies and their systems. And sometimes it's a lot of energy taken in at once for a person who hasn't had energy treatment before. One of the things that will happen in the process of realignment, in the process of healing, in the process of recalibrating, bringing the body back into balance, is that it will release. You may cry, scream, have diarrhea. You'll see that the body, you may perspire. It will release. And so I wouldn't say the word danger is correct, but there will be sometimes reactions as one is coming into alignment and coming into a healed state.
Yeah,
And what about for you as the Reiki practitioner? Do you have to align yourself before and after a session?
What is important for me and Dr. Thompson, I'm sure you'll have your own, because it's a very personal practice. I do try to cleanse. I try to make sure that I haven't had any alcohol. One of the things that I have had happen, I stopped doing Reiki for a few years because I thought I was, quote unquote, making people sick. And
Wow.
when I really understood that what was happening was this powerful realignment, this powerful sort of displacement of discomfort, I began to pick it back up again. But if we sometimes over-identify or merge with the person we're working with, if your head hurts, my head will hurt. If your knee hurts, my knee will hurt. And the practitioner learns to pull out and pull away because they're now merging with an energy in a way that is impacting them. So that is probably the best understanding. And sometimes when you're first attuned, you're dealing with a lot more energy than one is accustomed to in the beginning. After a while, when you're really running a lot of energy, it can be tiring. It can sometimes be very, bring about fatigue, but it is a lovely, wonderful healing energy.
All right.
Yeah, I agree. I know, and quickly for me personally, I just am constantly making sure that I am not projecting any energy to that person, and then that I am not absorbing any of their energy. I mean, I'm constantly keeping this in the forefront of my mind as I'm giving Reiki, and I'm very careful about what I'm thinking. And just trying to stay centered and protected. I might wear a piece of a crystal or something that's protected against other people against negative energy. So yeah.
I would also add that some people are better at containing their own energy, and other people you're working on, their energy is a little bit, uh,
It's everywhere.
it's everywhere,
Yeah.
and yet,
Yeah.
they're more than willing to share it, with you.
Right.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
and when you realize that that is maybe the dynamic, then again, you want to um, bring in the healing crystals, or bring in some sort of parameter. You want to set up your boundaries. You want your boundaries clear, that this is mine,
Okay.
and that what's going on over there is yours.
All right. I
Okay.
want to get to some, thank you. I want to get to
So
some other questions
yeah,
too.
we have
So
a few more
what else do you have,
questions.
Wayne?
Yep. Question from Dr. Richard Goodjoin. Is there an organization where you can contact to find Reiki practitioners in your area?
Uh,
Um,
either of you?
I think if you Google it, you'll find it. I don't know the specific one for, the Reiki Alliance maybe, but I would just Google Reiki practitioners in wherever you are, and they'll direct. Mhm.
There's two, George Washington Integrative Medicine, I think, offers Reiki. And when you mentioned Unity, they have a Reiki share once a month on first Sunday. I'm not sure which Sunday it is, but
That's
if you're,
Yeah, but I was just gonna say that's for the DC, Maryland, and Virginia area. So
yes,
we have a lot of listeners outside of that area. And so I think, Googling it in, and I will put something in the chat because I think I have it in Excuse Me Doctor, is actually in there. There's a section on Reiki and how to find a Reiki master in your area. So I'll
excellent.
include that later in the chat.
Yeah,
And
thank you.
we have another question. We have a question from Kathy Sindos. Does Reiki help with PTSD?
Ooh, good question. Uh, Dr. Thompson?
I would say it can, but Dr. LaRoche looked like she was getting ready to say something, so I'll let you.
I have not had experience with PTSD, but I've been looking at, there's some new treatments out there now that I've been reading about, and understanding that Reiki works on these multiple levels and pathways. And I have read, a colleague of mine who is a Reiki master up in New Hampshire just sent me an article, and they were talking about using Reiki for PTSD. So that does have a precedent. It does happen, and people do use it. I don't know that it's widely accepted yet, but it does have a track record, and it is being used for those purposes.
So perhaps alongside whatever main modality that is being used for PTSD, adding Reiki on wouldn't hurt,
Correct.
and it might help.
Correct.
Right.
Mhm.
You wow. That was the next question from Jeff McLean from Los Angeles. He writes, is there a role for non-physical challenges, psychological blocks to making money or healing trauma from Reiki?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Remember, Reiki works on the mental, emotional, uh, energetic levels, really. And working on that level filters down to release blocks in the physical body. So certainly, yes.
Okay. We
I
have
would agree.
another. Oh, go ahead, Dr.
No,
LaRoche.
I would agree.
Okay. We have another question from Marv West. Does Reiki help with peripheral neuropathy?
Peripheral neuropathy, which a lot of times people with diabetes have that. It's when the nerves in your mainly legs, but sometimes hands, start to deteriorate. And as a result, they kind of misfire and you start to feel um, electric sensations or pins and needles in your legs, or like I said, legs or arms. So that's what peripheral neuropathy is.
Mhm.
Have you worked on it, Dr. Thompson?
No, not specifically. But
Okay.
again, if we think about, and I know it's a hard concept for people to embrace, that maybe my diabetes is not just because, of my lifestyle. It may be because of some emotions and thinking that I have, I'm stuck in, and it's stuck somewhere in my physical body, and it is causing um, my body to react in a way that's generating diabetes. So, again, if we think about working on the mental, emotional level, energetic level with Reiki, and if we could really embrace the fact that everything in our physical body that is an issue or disease, unless you're hit by a car, but still you might be attracting that. So, all I'm saying is that um, Reiki addresses that, but on a different level than you would normally think.
Okay.
And I would add to that that I've not had experience specifically, but that Reiki calms the nerves, it calms the body, it calms the sort of the misalignment of energies. And so from that perspective, I would think that it would be useful and helpful.
Okay.
Actually, one study I ran across kind of confirmed that it helped to relieve pain, periphery uh, uh, nerves. And I can't remember the exact name of the study, but it did address that it did relieve, that Reiki did relieve pain associated with that.
Great.
But again, it can relieve pain for that time. But if that mental, emotional, energetic issue has not been addressed, it'll come back.
Okay. So we have another question coming from Jeff Walker, and he asks, "Is Reiki similar to the laying of hands in church?"
Good question.
You know, I once said to someone, Reiki, Christ laid on hands, he was doing energy healing. And someone said to me, "You're comparing yourself to Christ?" So I'm always reluctant now to answer that question because but it is a universal life force energy. It is the laying on of hands. When your mother used to rub your head if you had a forehead, or kiss your boo-boo, or rub your arm, or if you have a migraine and you're massaging your temples, you are actually doing a type of touch healing that we're talking about. So that in my understanding of this energy, it is the laying on of hands. When you think of ordination, if you watch Prince Charles be coronated, his coronation, there's touch, there's a transfer. And so I believe it is similar, and it's an ancient practice that I think came from the ancient world, came into the United States through Japan, and from Japan came from Hawaii. And I think that it is the laying on of hands.
All right.
That's what we do.
All right.
There you have it.
Any
There
other
you have it,
questions,
Dr.
Wayne?
Mel.
All right. Well, this has certainly been eye-opening. I think I'm pretty sure, well, for me, I've learned, and I thought I knew something, a little something about Reiki, but this has been certainly eye-opening. Thank you so much, Dr. Linda Thompson. Thank you so much, Dr. Cheryl LaRoche. You all have been a wealth of energy, and I'm sure people will. Is there anything that you want to add in terms of where they can reach out to you if they have more questions?
Well, I can be reached at 202-792-8382. Again, 202-792-8382. Either call or text, either way.
All
And
right.
I would say, if you want to reach me, that you can reach out to Dr. Mel, and she can kind of reach out to me. But I did want to just offer a blessing at the end of this, to say, for those of you who are here that are suffering or listening and want to have a moment's worth of peace, that we would just send you some distance healing now and ask you to take it in and receive it. That these are the kinds of things that Reiki does. It moves. You're here. You were moved to come to this show. You were moved to listen. And the energy is here, and we offer it to you.
Well, thank you. That is a beautiful note to end on. Thank you to both of you. Thank you, Wayne, for being an excellent co-host and producer. And thank you, of course, to my Be Health Empowered audience. Y'all always have the best questions in the world. And I just want to remind you that that study that I've been talking about at Howard University, the COVID resilience research study, is back open and enrolling people. It's a voluntary study where you just fill out a 2-part survey that talks about how you fared during the height of the COVID pandemic. And you can be reimbursed up to $100. If you have any interest, reach out to Dana Harvey. You can reach her at danaharveyresearch@gmail.com. That's Dana, D-A-N-A, Harvey, Harvey, research@gmail.com. Well, that's it for us. Thank you so much for tuning in. And until I see you again, remember, be wise, be well, and be health empowered. Thanks, everyone.
This one here is vaxxed and boosted. I have a little brother has asthma, which means he's 6 times more likely than a healthy kid to go to the hospital.
Yeah.
Uno out.
You cheated. I'm not doing the dishes.
If I play my cards, I am so glad they let me in.